The People's Republic of China is essentially making a move right now, Kanem. And in order not to depend at all, not on any tariffs, secondary sanctions, or any kind of surcharges, in response to all these things that Trump is offering them, they are creating incredible, simply unbelievable oil reserves. Just listen to this. So right now, China's oil reserves amount to 1.2 billion barrels. And that's with the storage tanks, the ones we know about, currently filled to 60%. And what happens next? So there can be only one explanation here. China has decided to hedge against sanctions from the United States of America. The good news is that China is acting the way it is. The bad news is that China is not stopping its purchases of Russian energy resources and raw materials. This is also explained by the very structure of these purchases. In fact, Russian raw materials are mainly purchased by the People's Republic of China in yuan. The sanctions imposed by the United States concern transactions in dollars. In the structure of these Chinese transactions, only 5% are settled in dollars. Almost 70% are in yuan and other world currencies as well. The plants that buy oil refineries in China do so in yuan. What kind of plants are these anyway? I came across a great term. They call them teapots. Why teapots? Because they mainly do this for domestic consumption. And they purchase this energy resource not directly from the Russian Federation, but through intermediaries, through internal financial institutions, Chinese banks. That's why all these sanction and customs issues are absolutely irrelevant for China. But the massive purchasing continues. And obviously it will continue to grow even more, because a little less than half of the available land in the People's Republic of China still exists. Now, about the incredible turn of events that is happening because of this, that is, Xi Jinping believed that he could outsmart Donald Trump, outsmart the world, and end up on top of this world, above sanction pressure and above economic laws, which in principle do not depend on Xi Jinping's wishes and cannot be adjusted by him. Here we have OPEC demonstrating OPEC. Plus, such a cartel demonstrates, as shown on this slide. What do we see on it? We see the price dynamics. So considering the production volumes over a certain period, from 2015, they project up to 2026. This is the outlook. This refers to production, which also relates to the purchase of Brent crude oil futures. That is, the price is set in advance. The overall decline amounts to 13%. And as of today, in September, October, the price is even without sanctions, simply because that's how the economy works, friends. $65. Let's recall the 19th package of sanctions from the European Union, where a certain formula was introduced. We take the market price of oil, subtract 15% from the average price over the last quarter, and that's what we get. At that time, as of July, August, when this proposal was introduced, it amounted to $65. Now, on average, if it holds at this level, the price per barrel is $65 over the course of the quarter. We'll subtract 15%. But OPEC too, they're not fools. In order to prevent the price of oil from dropping too much, they suspend production. That's exactly what's happening right now. $65 is the norm for OPEC. That's the standard. Anything lower is a bad scenario. For the Russian Federation to collapse, the price would need to drop to 35. That's pure fantasy, friends. If you push it, well, subtract it down to $57 or $55, that's 65 minus 15%. That's still a significant blow. And what did Donald Trump mean after his meeting with Xi Jinping when he wrote that post? This nice post about how, after meeting with Xi Jinping, he considers both countries to be great powers. Grade 2, my grade 2 meeting. So G2, grade 2, meaning two great powers. God bless both China and the USA. And you can see just how planetary in scale this cynicism is right now. That is, China can afford to buy as much oil as it needs for decades to come. And Donald Trump is still confident that business and economic laws, he's gone through bankruptcy more than once, so he knows what he's talking and writing about. They are above any plans. Xi Jinping, want to make a Chinese god laugh? Tell him about your purchases and savings in those Chinese reservoirs. Obviously, yes. Not to mention Donald Trump's lesser friends, like, for example, Viktor Orbán. By the way, did you know that this week Viktor Orbán, on the 7th, he plans, or maybe now it's in question, to have a meeting. He was planning to go to the United States to meet personally with his friend Donald Trump and ask him for a favor, to allow him to continue buying Russian oil and gas, bypassing the sanctions. Trump has already refused even without this meeting, and now Viktor Orbán has a headache over it. So what will be the main topic then? Because this political, completely populist move that he came up with for his voters isn't working now. If Europe is increasing sanctions pressure, then even a small member of the European Union like Orbán and his Hungary must act accordingly. The same goes for them. At the same time, there's another European Union country that's in shock over this whole situation with Russian oil and sanctions. For refineries, that's Bulgaria. In Bulgaria, the situation there is that there's a little Lukoil plant completely affiliated with Russian money. And that's just how it traditionally happened, because it's a former country of the socialist bloc. So in Burgas, a major port city notably located between Sozopol and Varna, there is this oil refinery with terminals and everything you can imagine. Lukoil in Bulgaria supplies 80% of the Bulgarian market's fuel needs. Accordingly, the sanctions currently imposed by the United States mean that there will be a shortage in Bulgaria. Bulgaria will not be able to purchase raw materials and process them, so it will have to buy its Bulgarian gasoline at higher prices because of logistics and the temporary shutdown of facilities until they sort things out by the blue fleet there. That's right. That's what the Bulgarian press writes. But for now, there's another threat emerging: political swings. The government that allows or has already allowed this catastrophe without taking into account that Lukoil controls 80% of the market may have to resign, and the country could plunge into crisis as a result. And who will take advantage of that crisis is also a big question. Turkey, which the Black Sea region as well, everything there is managed more manually with money from Azerbaijan's SOCAR. But in principle, the key stake in this company, SOCAR, is actually Turkish. It belongs specifically to Turkish investors. Now, the procurement of Iranian and Kazakh resources has begun. 200,000 barrels per day, and just imagine, with ease. Now, Turkey has reoriented itself. Turkey, which positions itself as an absolutely neutral party in the story with the Russian Federation. But it is obvious that friendship with Washington and Brussels is more important than friendship and good relations with Moscow, with Putin. That is why now there is one plant called Sakarya and another plant called Tupras. They are switching to grades that are as close as possible to Russian Urals oil. That's the kind of story that's happening. And the cherry on top, this is just wonderful, I think. It's something that perhaps wasn't expected, but definitely somewhere in NATO. All of this was planned because thanks to the sanctions imposed by the United States, Lithuania now, and the Lithuanian railway is stopping the transit of products, Lukoil's products, to the Kaliningrad region, all thanks to US sanctions. And just imagine what it means to stop that. The flow of oil from the Russian Federation to Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is a military enclave, essentially within the body of Northern Europe. The Kaliningrad region, which ensures control over Suwałki and Belarus, and in fact, the Kaliningrad region is control over the so-called gate to the Baltic. The gateway to the Baltic. That's what it means. And a blockade, what are the Russian military supposed to do there without oil, gasoline, or fuel? How are they supposed to power supply and so on, all of that? That's how it is. And that's why this is a very vivid, small, maybe not so tangible, but a very clear demonstration of what sanctions are, while waiting for some divine decisions, concessions from China, India, Brazil, and so on. Sometimes you're pleasantly surprised when a single sanctions-related story can block something. A Russian military enclave on the territory of Europe. I think that's excellent.